Okay, this is how I jacked up my W211 chassis Mercedes E320 Bluetec. There's a little rubber thing, that's I guess the technical name, on this cross member on the underside of the car. I took out the plastic shielding first. There are three pieces. I guess you only have to remove the front and middle one, now that I think about it. So I raised this with my floor jack after taking off the shielding, and then you can see that I placed the two jack stands in the on the sills. Of course, those sills have slots for the factory jack, the emergency jack, and I fashioned two blocks of wood to fit in those slots, and then put them on top of the jack stand, which is a traditional sort of V-shaped. It has a traditional V-shaped head, and that seems to work. The blocks of wood creaked a bit when the car settled on it, but it seems to have stabilized. It wasn't too bad, so if I'd known about this all along, it wouldn't have taken too long to do. Okay, here's a view of the brake rotor and hub after I got the wheel off. No apparent scoring here, so I can see that it has worn a bit, but it looks good. And now I'm going to try and replace the pads, which is supposed to be easy. Okay, I took the top caliper bolt out. Here it is. That's 13 millimeters. Comes out easily. One turn, and then looks like this pivots out. You can see the brake pad there, and I'm going to try and see if I can just pull it out without having to remove the other caliper bolt. So here are the brake pads. They do indeed come out just by pivoting on one bolt, but you have to be careful with this brake hose here, brake line here. There's just enough give to take the pads out, but you have to be careful. And here are the old pads. Let's see if we can get a good look at them. Yeah, they're pretty worn down. Let's compare with the new pad. Check it out. Yeah, let's see here. New pad, old pad. My goodness. Okay. Now the next challenge is to push that piston back in to accommodate the second pad. I've already put one of the new pads in right here. Okay. So what I have here is a piston caliper piston compressor tool, which is some cheap, a few dollar item that you can buy in any car parts store. I've had this for years, and for this particular design of caliper, it seems to work perfectly. The thing to remember is keep the old pad in there, because that piston is hollow, but it has a flat metal cover, and if you just put the compressor tool on it, it might probably push that thing in because it's kind of hollow inside. So put the old pad in there, and then put the tool in, and then simply tighten until that it's not even that hard, doesn't take a lot of effort. You push, 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 and the piston goes until the piston goes all the way in, and then we can just, there you go. There. And now it's all the way in. I can take out my caliper removal tool, which looks like this, by the way. Take out the old pad. The piston's all the way in, you can see, flush with the housing. And I should just now be able to slide the other brake pad in. So as it happens, you have to, which I forgot to do first, is that there are these brake holder spring clamp things, for which the brake pad kit comes with new ones of these. So these things go like this, and so I pull them out. They go across the rotor like this, and I pull them out. So there are two old ones, and I have two new ones somewhere here. There they are. So these are the new ones. Here's one, and there's the other. So I'm going to have to put these back before I put the new pads in. So installing the new hardware, those clip things, is quite simple. Here's one of them. I've already installed one right there, the upper one. And here's the lower one. It's still loose, but you just push them in so that it startles the rotor, and then there's a flange on which it mounts, so you just push it down on both sides. And that's pretty much it. Okay, very helpfully they also give you two of these plastic covers that go on the piston, and I didn't notice these at first, so you just put them on there and life is good. Or there you go, and that's pretty much it. Let's get a good look there. So that just snaps in there. I'm actually not sure what the function is, maybe to prevent crud from getting in there. Okay, so I've installed the inner brake pad. So what I found was that it was easiest to just feel with your fingers, push it into the bottom slot, then pivot it into the top slot. It took a couple of tries, but it wasn't too hard. So now I'm going to do the outer one, and here's the pad. Let's see if I can do it in camera, as it were. There. And almost there. There, it's gone in now. And I should just be able to push this back in. Indeed, it pivots right in, and really you can just push it in, put the screw in, tighten it with your ratchet set to tighten rather than loosen. And this may turn out to be the easiest brake job ever on any of my cars. Jacking up the car was far harder than changing the pads. An unexpected challenge removing the right wheel. It just wouldn't come off. So I used this rubber mallet, which I've had for years, and whacked on firmly on the wheel a few times, and then it finally worked loose. So I'm not sure why it gets stuck in place, and I can imagine this would be a real challenge if someone had to change a flat on the freeway. It just wouldn't come off, and most people don't carry rubber mallets around in their trunk. Okay, one more thing different about the right side is I believe that the brake pad wear sensor is only on the right hand side. Cheapskates. Anyway, so I guess we have to disconnect this and remove that, and I think we have some new new brake pad sensors right there, which came with the brake pad kit. Now the brake pad sensor plug simply pulls out. Turns out that they've given us, there are possibly two different styles of connector. So they've given us two, one of which, here we go, let's see, this is one, this is the other. I believe this is the one I want because it's similar to the one we have here. So they're slightly different in size. Turns out there's one more connector to remove or unscrew from the the calipers. And it has this oddball head, and I was worried. I don't really have a socket but it fits that exactly. Turns out an 8mm socket works fine. So no trip to Sears. So here's the old pad. I took it out, and if you examine it, you can see that there's the wear pad sensor connector. It just embeds into the pad material, and you can see how it works. Here it's the brake pad's worn far enough that that electrode makes contact with the rotor itself and tells us the diagnostic computer that all is not well. Okay, another little detail. The two brake pads are almost identical, you know, the two remaining ones, except that there's a hole here. Let's see if we can spot it. See this hole here? Through the brake pad material? That's in a different place. One has it closer to the outside, this one, and one has it further away from the inside, like this one. So we want the one which is closer because that's what matches our old connector. So the round, smaller one, and that fits only on one of them. So there's a detail that was not obvious. So here we go. The connector is in place. It's easy to push in, really. There's nothing to it. You have to be careful. There's a little spring clip there, a metal spring clip kind of thing, which holds it in place. But otherwise, there's a cylindrical portion that goes into the brake material where there's a hole in it, and it just slides in. Nothing to it. Okay, one more detail. They give us two new bolts. So I assume that what that means is that you're supposed to do exactly what I did and replace only the bolts that you actually took out. And they have Loctite on them, on the thread locker on the edges, on the ends. So I forgot to do that on the other side. I'm going to go back and do that, but on this side I did remember, and here we go.